The atmosphere in Minnesota is far from calm. There's a sense of urgency cutting through the locker room and the organization's hallways. Reports and signals from behind the scenes show that management is monitoring market options ahead of the trade deadline. The defense has flashes of brilliance, but also lapses that cost games, and that's putting pressure on immediate decisions. For many fans, the impression is clear. There's a missing high-impact piece in the secondary. In press conferences, coaches ask for consistency. In practices, they work on communication. In commentary, fans and analysts question depth. There is, therefore, a narrow window for action. In playoff time and with a tight schedule, the urgency is real. The remedy many mention involves an elite cornerback, not a gamble, but a name ready to deliver when it counts. Denzel Ward, cornerback for the Cleveland Browns, emerges as the most mentioned target by NFL insiders. Ward, a two-time Pro Bowl selection with All-Pro recognition in his career, has the credentials the team is looking for: 5 feet 11 inches and 190 pounds, speed, awareness, and proven ability in man-to-man coverage. Sources indicate that the evaluation is not just a rumor. There is concrete interest and preliminary negotiations behind the scenes, placing Ward as a realistic piece before the deadline closes. Immediate impact. If the deal moves forward, Minnesota would not be seeking a project. They would be buying ready, a veteran with a proven record of neutralizing number, one receivers and anchoring coverage in aggressive schemes. The need is both technical and immediate. With Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave elevating the pass rush, the Vikings managed to generate pressure among the best in the league, but the secondary hasn't been able to sustain the front seven's work. Byron Murphy Jr. shows consistency, but not absolute excellence. Isaiah Rodgers offers speed, but fluctuates. Jeff Okudah shows potential in physical coverage, but struggles with inconsistency, and Dwight McGlothern is still a developing talent. The practical result is a mismatch: high pressure on the line and vulnerability in deep coverage, a recipe for explosive plays. In recent games, the defense has allowed an average of 267 passing yards per game and has given up 5 touchdowns on plays over 20 yards, numbers that justify the search for immediate reinforcement. The tactical fit of Ward in Brian Flores' system is plausible and almost immediate. Flores often operates with disguised blitzes and demands that corners have the confidence to hold up in man-to-man coverage. Ward has a history of excellence in press man and quick route recognition, attributes that would allow Flores to expand creativity in defensive play calling without fear of being exposed deep. The tactical impact would translate into more freedom for the pass rush. With Ward locking down the receiver, Allen and Hargrave or other pass rushers would have more room for aggressive plays, potentially increasing sacks and turnovers. Immediate impact. This effect would be felt within the first month, more pressure converted into forced throws and fewer big plays allowed. Behind the idea, there is management logic. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has a history of aggressive moves when he sees value. The same GM has made several targeted trades to address gaps. The cornerback position is thin. 4 effective names on the active roster leave little room for error in case of injuries or performance drops. Additionally, some evaluations from NFL insiders showed that the Vikings did not prioritize cornerbacks in the most recent draft, relying on internal convictions and UDFAs to fill spots, a strategy that now comes at a depth cost. Contractually, although Ward has a cost, his structure allows for negotiations that could fit the move within the Vikings' salary cap if management decides to reallocate assets. In the locker room, the arrival of an All-Pro would have practical and emotional effects. Veteran players value leadership and on-field security, and a cornerback of Ward's caliber functions as the backbone of the secondary. Murphy could rotate more to the slot, where he has performed better at times. Rodgers and Okudah would have room to compete on the outside without carrying the full burden. McGlothern could breathe and develop with less pressure from immediate starting duties. From a psychological standpoint, the mere presence of the name reduces uncertainty among safeties and linebackers, who start trusting that the ball will not be easily delivered to the number. 1 receiver. Immediate impact. This confidence would increase the effectiveness of combined coverage and reduce communication errors that lead to big plays. The schedule also pushes for action. With important matchups ahead after the bye week in Week 6, the opportunity to negotiate a player directly with the opposing team creates a unique dynamic. Seeing the rival in action and evaluating the interested player live. For Minnesota, it is a practical test and a negotiation lever. If the franchise acts before the trade deadline, it could turn a chronic need into a real competitive advantage. Not acting, on the other hand, risks perpetuating the pattern: strong pass rush, weak secondary, and losses decided by big plays. In the media and among fans, opinions are divided between urgency and caution. Some argue that internal adjustments are enough. Others contend that a veteran of Ward's caliber is the kind of piece you acquire when in a competitive window. The Vikings' interest in Denzel Ward does not come out of nowhere. In recent analysis reports and internal team columns, one constant emerges: the defense is one step away from being complete. In particular, texts analyzing the season's defensive bold prediction highlight how the pass rush made a leap in efficiency with the arrivals of Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, but also how the secondary remains the link that needs attention. Flores' system worked best when the defense forced the opposing offense into hurried throws. When that didn't happen, coverage breakdowns reappeared. This mismatch is the backdrop that makes the pursuit of Ward not only logical, but necessary. And there is a behind-the-scenes detail that few noticed. Ward's name appeared in internal discussions even before the last game in Dublin. Immediate impact. According to October trade report investigations, the GM's analysis team had already listed the cornerback among the plausible targets, alongside names like Marshawn Lattimore and Trevon Diggs, but Ward was the only one marked as an immediate fit. The reason? His recent health record and consistent performance in 2024, when he finished the season with 4 interceptions and a passer rating allowed below 70. In the documents circulating about the trade big board, the cornerback sector is treated as a secondary priority, with a caveat: only if the right name appears. The text notes that the current unit is functional but vulnerable in long third-down situations, highlighting that Okudah and Rodgers allow a 53% conversion rate on these plays. It is precisely this type of weakness that Ward's arrival would correct. His short route recognition and reaction in crossing routes is among the best in the NFL. According to the Browns' own 2024 metrics, he allowed only 9 yards per reception on passes up to 15 yards. This is the kind of number that transforms a defense's dynamic. And the impact goes beyond coverage. There is an invisible gain in field tactics: immediate impact. With a cornerback of Ward's caliber, Flores could reposition his safeties more freely, allowing them to move up into the box in nickel formations, helping contain runs and reducing linebacker fatigue. This flexibility would allow Minnesota to rotate the defense with less predictability, a deficiency highlighted in September reports, which indicated that 61% of defensive plays started with the same formation. Another important point comes from texts analyzing the game in Dublin. The offensive line's communication failed, but the report also emphasizes how the defense lost timing in crossing coverage, allowing the opponent to exploit the space between the corner and the safety. This lack of synchronicity is described as a misunderstanding among young players, something the presence of a veteran like Ward would help correct. Experience matters. With 7 years in the league, he has seen almost every offensive variation and would serve as an extension of the coordinator on the field, a role the secondary currently lacks. On the emotional front, the fan base feels this urgency. In weekly mailbags, the theme repeats: when will the reinforcement for the back end arrive? Is it time to bet on a big name? Many fans spontaneously mention Denzel Ward as the missing piece. There is a collective perception that the team has enough talent to compete. What's missing is the final push. The Vikings' defense does not need to be rebuilt, only completed. And the potential trade has an opportunity component that will not repeat. Immediate impact. Ward's contract allows the acquiring franchise to assume a favorable bonus structure with reduced impact on the 2025 cap. This window exists only now. If not used, the cost next year increases by nearly 20%. It's the type of financial detail that often determines whether a trade happens or not. Speculations about who would be involved in the trade also appear in the reports. Backup offensive linemen and mid-round draft picks have been mentioned as potential trade currency. This makes sense. Cleveland seeks line reinforcement and may see Minnesota as a partner with ready pieces and draft capital flexibility. Nothing official has been released, but the indications are clear. There is a conversation, and it involves concrete names. In the locker room, the discussion is also circulating. Some veterans are already talking informally about reinforcements arriving, and there is a sense that the group would interpret the trade as a signal of confidence from management. When the roster realizes the organization is willing to invest to win now, the emotional response is immediate. This creates energy, boosts morale and confidence, and reverses the recent narrative of instability in the Vikings secondary. And there is another tactical point rarely discussed: the indirect effect on the offense. Immediate impact. With a more stable defense capable of containing big plays, Kevin O'Connell would have more freedom to manage the offensive rhythm. Today, the Vikings offense is forced to be aggressive all the time to compensate for points allowed. With Ward on the roster, the team could play more balanced, reducing turnovers and controlling the clock. The overall impact of a potential arrival of Denzel Ward, therefore, goes beyond statistics. It represents a shift in posture. It would be the first major move since the acquisitions of Allen and Hargrave, and would consolidate Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's aggressive philosophy: identify a weakness and correct it with proven talent, not just potential. For a fan base that has seen the team come close and fall back multiple times since 2017, this would be a sign that management wants more than competitiveness. It wants results. The final decision is near. The clock is ticking, and the deadline approaches as a turning point. The scenario is clear. If Minnesota acts, it gains credibility, confidence, and defensive solidity. If it hesitates, it risks seeing the same mistakes repeated in November and December. Fans have already understood the message and are waiting. Perhaps in the next hours or in the next days, the news will be confirmed, and if an All-Pro truly wears purple, the Vikings defense will shift from a promise to a warning to the entire NFC. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.